Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Dave.
Dave.
What's going
Hi,
on?
Ron.
Hey, wow.
Hi, Stan.
Oh, it's using my wrong camera. Ah, darn. Well,
Yes, Stan is going to be sitting in for me today.
You liberated him from jail, I see. How's it
He's
going,
just always
gentlemen?
looking over your shoulder.
we can fix this.
So we have Ron Gilbert and we have Dave Grossman, as if you guys didn't already know by them. Just the look. Everybody knows Ron Gilbert and Dave Grossman nowadays. So how are you guys doing? Welcome.
Good. We're doing great.
All right.
Awesome. Return to Monkey Island. You've returned.
You've returned. Monkey Island has returned.
Yes.
It returned to us.
And you are now captaining the ship, the pirate ship, if you will, back to return to Monkey Island. So we'll just jump right into it because I want to take every bit of time that we have to learn some things about your experiences in creating the game and what led to the game. I'm sure you've answered this a million times before, but humor us. What led to bringing Monkey Island back?
Well, it was kind of a complex, somewhat random journey. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to make another Monkey Island, but with Lucasfilm owning it and then Disney owning it, it just didn't seem like a thing that I was going to be able to do. And I think it was PAX 2019. A guy named Nigel Laurie, who was I think one of the co-founders of Devolver, said that he just wanted to get together and have a beer and stuff. So I got together with him, and he had mentioned that he is good friends with somebody that worked in, I think it's the Disney licensing department, and he thought that he could get a license for Monkey Island. So we talked for a bit, and I told them that I wanted to think about it for a while because they didn't want to just jump in and do another Monkey Island. I wanted to do a new one. I wanted to do a Monkey Island that kind of felt special in some way. So I thought about it for a while, and Dave and I had been working on another project that actually never saw fruition. So we were in contact with each other. So I called up Dave and I said, "Hey, what do you think about doing another Monkey Island?" And Dave and I got together for a long weekend, and we kind of plotted out what we thought the game could be and where it could go. And then I think after that meeting, it's like I felt comfortable enough that we had a good idea and could do something with it. So that's when I went back to Devolver and said, okay, if you can put this deal together, then, Dave and I are in.
And in you were. So we know that there was a lot of people who, or I shouldn't say a lot, I think a small minority were at first maybe upset regarding the graphics, myself not included.
He's going straight there. Okay.
I had a question lined up for later on, but there was a little dead air there, so I'll just jump right there. So what was immediately the thing that you think that made people disappointed in the art style, if at all?
Well, I think initially, and I think both Dave and I knew this was going to happen, and it was something that we had discussed at the beginning of the project, was do we do it as pixel art or not? And I think we both decided we don't want to do it as pixel art because we wanted the game to be a new game. We wanted to be a new, more modern, Monkey Island game, not to be a throwback game. And I think as Emily can attest to, it's like every time anyone wrote about Thimbleweed Park, it was always called a throwback game. I think that phrase appeared in every single review of that game that came out. And that always bugged me because it was a good game, and I never viewed it as a throwback game. And I really didn't want Return to Monkey Island to be viewed as a throwback game. And so we decided not to do it with the pixel art. And I'd always been a big fan of Rex's art, and so he was, top of my list of people to contact to do the art for it.
Yep. Yeah, it feels like doing pixel art's always an option, but it's a thing that you do when you want to increase nostalgia, And Monkey Island already comes loaded with an awful lot of nostalgia, and we sort of needed to play it down rather than play it up.
Yeah, and even though this is your version of Monkey Island 3, let's say, the series has already moved beyond pixel art, with Curse and Escape and Tales. So, it sort of really feel to me like a step backwards if you went back to do that. But so
even with the first two, even with the first two games, it's not like we called it pixel art at the time. We just called it art, right? I mean, it was all, we did it because it was all we could do.
Yeah,
and I think as soon as people could do more than pixel art, they immediately did. I mean, you look at Curse of Monkey Island, that's not pixel art. As soon as they could do high resolution stuff, they absolutely jumped on that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna say. That people complained originally when Curse of Monkey Island came out, and then Escape from Monkey Island. They said it's changed. Well, that's just the way the gaming industry and art in general has happened. It evolves, and I think it oftentimes should, especially with a Monkey Island, to which we've played the game so many different times and so many different variations. Give us a new flavor, and I feel like we got that. Even those who might not have liked the idea at first, once they started playing, almost unanimously it seemed like everybody loved it and lauded it.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things when all the the hubbub happened with the art, that I don't think any of us were really worried about it, because we had done play testing with the game where we brought in play testers, and their initial reaction, there was a little bit of a, hey, this isn't pixel art, or hey, what is this art? But literally 10 minutes into the game, they loved it. And so we didn't have a lot of worries that once people could play the game and see everything in motion, that they weren't really going to love the art. It was just never an issue for us as a team.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I was shocked to even hear that people were complaining about it, because I love the look, and I loved the I don't want to say risk, but the boldness in picking a really stylized aesthetic. But I just think people got sort of hung up on sort of too much change all at once, but in a screenshot or in a trailer. And that's not, like, a game is not a trailer. A game is not a screenshot. And as you said, I knew that when people started playing, you become immersed in it, and just you tune out sort of the nitpicky, this isn't what I expected kind of thing, and you just kind of let it wash over you. And that's what happened.
It's the internet, and people love to complain on the internet. So
I've noticed. Yes.
Emily, I saw you were wanting to ask a question. You want to?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I think it's an art style that it is kind of bold and risky, and maybe would take a little getting used to, no matter what game it was. And maybe some of the disconnect is that people think they know what Monkey Island is. Whereas if you were sitting down to a brand new game you'd never played before, after 10 minutes, you'd be like, oh, I'm playing this game that looks like this. And understanding that this thing that is Monkey Island that I think I understand now looks like this thing that I don't yet know how to perceive, maybe took people... I actually had the same reaction. I play tested Return to Monkey Island a year before anyone else knew it was coming out. And after the playtest, I think Ron kind of poked me and he's like, I got the sense you didn't really like the art. What was the problem? And it was like, it wasn't like it. It was that I didn't know yet what to make of it, But I love that game. It grew on me so much, and I think it turned out so great, and I'm very happy that you guys made it. So,
I mean, Emily, you also played the game so early that
it was very static when I played it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the characters literally slid around the screen because they weren't animated. So, yeah, you saw them you were our very first playtester, so you saw a very early version of the game.
That was a hard secret to keep. I've signed NDAs before, but none have been quite so painful as that one.
How did you manage to keep it a secret all this time?
It was very, very, very
I mean,
difficult.
That's a real secret of Monkey Island, right?
Yeah, right. The secret of Monkey Island is under NDA.
The secret of Monkey Island.
I always enjoyed the irony that we had to keep a huge secret for a game called The Secret of Monkey Island.
Right.
So people are asking, and people have requested to have a understanding. So at the end of LeChuck's Revenge, obviously, wonderful ending. I think that it's was the best game at the time. And then you come into, and by the way, this is a part where we could say spoiler alert, major spoiler alert. So if you guys have not played it or something, mute. Maybe. So
Wave your arms when the spoiler's over, and they'll know to turn the sound on
Right.
again.
so this is a big one, but it happens right at the beginning of the game. So as we know, at the end of LeChuck's Revenge, Guybrush and Chucky come out and they speak with their parents, allegedly. Now comes Return to Monkey Island, not their parents. And so now, what happened in between the idea of the parents talking to them at the end of LeChuck's Revenge and saying, "Where have you been? Where have you been?" And then from there, now they're not the parents and they're playing a little hide and seek game style.
Well, I mean, there's two answers to that question in my mind. There's the answer of, what were the design decisions and what were the story decisions that Dave and I made, and then there's the other question as well. What is the kind of reality of what's going on? And I don't feel like I want to answer the second question, about what's going on. I think that's kind of left to interpretation for people to figure out. What is going on with that. But to answer the first part of your question, I think how to move this from the end of Monkey Island 2 into the beginning of Monkey Island was a huge issue. I mean, that was one of the very first things that Dave and I talked about when we got together, is how do we transition those things? Because I knew that I wanted to start right at the end of Monkey Island 2. So how do we do that transition? And I think the idea came very early on. Dave can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea of it being Guybrush's son came pretty early in that discussion. And then it was just a matter of how we kind of weave that into the game. And that whole beginning sequence, like after they get out of the back room area and show up in the carnival, I think that Dave and I wrote 5 versions of that whole intro. It's like, I think Dave did the first one, and then I did the second one, and then Dave did another one, and then we hashed through each other's stuff. So we just went over and over and over with that intro and what was being said and what they were doing. That did become like a major point of that beginning, is just trying to get that opening exactly right.
Yeah, because you did pitch that we that very first weekend we pitched several ideas around about how to bridge the gap between the two stories, and you pitched that one that very first weekend, and we were still revising it like a year and a half later. So it did take a while.
I want to hear some of the rejected ideas.
Oh man,
Or those the real
you don't want to hear the rejected ideas.
Yeah,
No.
we do.
They were dumb. There's a reason rejected ideas are
rejected.
Well, we have a little bit of the game that I guess we're gonna play, and maybe you can give us your thoughts while we walk through it. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Now I played the game. Oh, actually, let me make sure I actually get this right here. Bear with me 1 second. I have to share my screen and see if I can do it right. Why don't you guys go ahead and keep asking your questions while I'm going here. That's not the right game.
Well,
Let's comment on someone else's game. That'll be cool.
Yeah, I think it would be more fun to comment on someone else's game.
How about Sam and Max remastered? Huh, Emily?
Done that one.
Well, actually, I'm going to be straight with you. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get this going. So, yeah, I had my engineer here earlier, and he told me exactly what to do, and I'm not doing it properly. So, I
So you're gonna have
apologize.
to do like a description of what you've got on the screen. You can just tell us what scene it is,
That's right.
and
Well,
then we'll talk.
well,
Walk through
actually, this
text
is the
edition.
beginning of the game, and we're definitely not gonna be able to do that. So, oh man, I apologize, guys. Let me get this stream back up.
So you said you're still iterating on the basic story, but like Ron, you had an idea in mind for Monkey Island 3 sort of way back then. I've heard you say that time has changed, you've changed, gamers have changed, and so you didn't just want to roll with the original story that you had in mind. Like, how much did it end up changing in your mind from what you originally conceived?
Oh, like 110%.
Okay, pretty big.
Yeah, the idea that I had at the end of Monkey 2 for Monkey Island 3 was going to be that Guybrush goes to hell and Stan is there. That is literally all I had for the game. And and then I went off and I started Humongous Entertainment and et cetera, et cetera. So that's all I had. And I think a lot of Monkey Island fans think that I had this completed design sitting on my desk, and we were just waiting to actually be able to implement it. And that's just not the case. And so I think, as you can see, I mean, a lot of this game, none of that is there. I mean, Stan is in the game, but he's not in hell. And the other problem was that some of the other Monkey Island games had done some of that. I mean, Guybrush Goes to Hell in the Tales games. And I felt like if I really kind of pulled that idea out and did it, people would kind of accuse me of ripping off the other games. So it just didn't feel like it was something that I could actually do, and doing just a brand new idea and a brand new story just seemed a lot more fitting thing to do.
So, now that you're back in making Return to Monkey Island games, do you see anything to where you could go forward with the Monkey Island series, or we have something else in mind, perhaps?
Yeah, it's. I think the thing is, this was a 2-year-long project, which is a pretty long project, and I think I can't speak for Dave, but I'm amazingly burnt out. And I just need several months to just relax. And once that is over, I can kind of think about what I want to do next, and whether it is a Monkey Island or whether it's that weird Maniac Mansion idea that I tweeted about, or whether it's something totally new. I don't know until I can kind of clear my head a little bit.
Yep, me too. 2 years is the longest project I've ever worked on, I think. So I'm taking a little downtime to do Halloween. Halloween's big at my house, so I'm writing a short story and decorating, and it's good stuff.
I'm curious how working on Monkey Island felt compared to, for Thimbleweed Park, which was completely your own IP, versus this thing that was at one time your own IP and then has kind of taken on its own life. And also for Dave, what it was like working on something that you worked on a long time ago, as opposed to more recently you've worked on other people's IPs that you had not been involved with previous. I'm just curious if this felt very different or if it felt similar to other projects.
I mean, it was different from working on someone else's IP, certainly, but we did have to research ourselves, which is kind of a weird feeling. Like, you go back and you play the stuff that you did 30 years ago, and remind yourself what was good about it and what were you like back then, and what was your writing style like, and kind of try and go halfway there from where you are now. It was strange.
You have to check a walkthrough.
Yes, on Monkey 2, I definitely was checking the walkthroughs on that. It was good. I was playing it with my son. He's 8 now, so he was probably 6 then, and he was kind of accusatory every time I had to check a walkthrough instead of knowing the answer to the puzzle. He'd be like, well, did you make this game or what? Why don't you know anything?
So
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I don't remember all the minutia of all the puzzles in those games. So I do have to look things up occasionally. I think during Return to Monkey Island, there was some debate about whether something happened one way or another in Monkey One, and I literally had to go to the source code for Monkey Island One and definitively look at the source code to make sure that it was happening the way I thought it was.
We had Ken and Roberta Williams on earlier, and we were joking about a little part of the game where you paid homage to Colossal Cave with the XYZZY. Was when did that start? When did that come into place? When you're deciding to throw that in?
Well, I think that came into place all the way back in Thimbleweed Park, because at the end of Thimbleweed Park, there's a little text adventure that you play that was kind of very much based on the Colossal Cave and the original adventure. So I've always kind of had this little sweet spot for that game. And yeah, I mean, we were just kind of brainstorming when Dave and I were doing early brainstorms. We were brainstorming, Terror Island and caves, and it seemed like a very nice thing to add.
Yeah, I think you wanted to do Twisty Passages first. And then we put XYZY in there too. Like Colossal Cave that was the first adventure game I ever played. I don't know about you, Ron, but that's it's always been special to me for that reason.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first one I played was just called Adventure, and it was on the mainframe computer at college. And I think that's the same thing
game.
as Colossal Cave, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same game.
Yeah.
I wonder if that puzzle, like I loved when I saw that, and I thought it was funny, and I knew right away what I needed to do with it. But I wonder if the kids today, if that's like a monkey wrench puzzle for people who did not play text adventures.
Yeah, we definitely talked about that. I mean, it's one of the reasons that when you open up your inventory, that the sign glows and it pulses, and so it was just to at least if you were stuck, your eye would be driven to this thing in your inventory that was glowing and pulsing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So in Return to Monkey Island, the pirate leaders are no longer the pirate leaders. I absolutely loved how once you get into the back room at the Scum Bar, it changed the little music tone. It kind of made it a little more hip, a little into the modern era. I really appreciated what you did with that.
Yeah, that was fun. I think when Michael and Peter and Clint came on and we were talking about the Scum Bar, and I remember talking to Michael about that, and I think I said I want the Scum Bar theme, but that done as speed metal. I think that was kind of what I told him for that, and I think he did a fantastic job of that.
I think he did a couple of different revs on it because our comment kept being no more. Louder, speedier.
Yeah, I really wanted that to be this change of tone as you walk back there. New pirate leaders, and just have this kind of this musical sense change when you walk to the right of that curtain.
We had a couple people in the chat that are complaining that they couldn't use their horse armor. Another clever little perk with that in typical Ron Gilbert and Dave Grossman fashion. Loved it.
You can use it. There are people in the game if you drag the horse armor onto them, they will respond to you.
Really?
Not very many though.
Oh wow! So I keep hearing that there's all these extra things that people have been able to do. We're talking with Glowbeard, Glow Kid, and he's saying how he's finding out all these little nuances as he plays the game over and over again. So it has some replayability as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed that, just putting lots of little Easter eggs in for people to find, and there are several that, as far as I know, no one has found yet. No one has mentioned them on the stream or mentioned them on Twitter. So I'm just kind of waiting for all this stuff to eventually be found.
Yeah, it's good to fill up all those nooks and crannies like that with fun. Yeah. I feel like we have a responsibility whenever there's anything that somebody might try to do for any reason, that we should provide some response for that.
And
so Ron, this the first Monkey Island that you have had voice actors for. Obviously Dominic Armato made for a natural choice for Guybrush, but what was it like to cast your Monkey Island characters?
Well, we tried to go back to the original cast as much as we could. We tried to go back to those people. We had this whole category that were called legacy actors. As we were casting, it's like, we listed all the people that we thought were important to get the legacy actors for, and then Chris Brown, who did the voice directing and casting for us, she kind of took that list and went through and looked up those people and see how many of them are still acting and etc. So, we kind of had that, and then there was just casting all the new people that we had to deal with. I mean, I did all the voice casting, with Thimbleweed Park. I mean, that was also full voice, and all the Humongous Entertainment games were voiced. So I'm certainly not new to doing voice acting in my games.
Yeah, I just imagine it must have been different because you wrote these characters before without voices. You probably had, a sound in your mind for them, and here you are actually giving voice to them for the first time.
Well, I think because the other games had shown up and they had voice, and I played those games with voice, I think that just really permeated my brain.
Right.
So I think those voices were in my head as the voices at that point.
Did you work with Chris Brown on the voice?
For
the voice recording for Return to Monkey Island?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, she did the directing and the casting for it.
She's an old LucasArts.
Yeah, she's a genius. It's amazing being in a recording session with her because she'll be listening to what the person is saying on the current line. She'll be making a note on the previous line. She'll be lining up the next line. She'll be carrying on a conversation with you in a chat all at the same time, and she just somehow doesn't miss a beat on any of that stuff. I don't understand how she can do it. It's not human.
So clear up a question that the internet have been asking about Guybrush Threepwood for many, many years. How old is Guybrush Threepwood in The Secret of Monkey Island?
I think we decided at some point that he was under 21 because there's a joke about that. I think that's in Monkey 2, even.
I think that's the Grog and Near Grog, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's in the library. He's applying for a library card, and he's supposed to say how old he is.
Oh, I know you kind of
21,
reference it.
21. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I don't think in either of our minds that he, has a definitive age other than, the joke with that puzzle.
Yeah.
But
He's whatever the right age is to be embarking on a career as a pirate. So, young guy.
In Return to Monkey Island, as we all are, Guybrush is getting a little bit older. And, you reference it in several times. When in his younger years, he can hold his breath for 10 minutes. And now it's 8 minutes. And I think Jack and I can attest to how, things get a little harder as we get older. So tell us about the mindset with this.
Well, I mean, that's it, right? I mean, that's, these things are to some degree autobiographical always. And Ron and I are getting a little older now, and we can't hold our breath as long as we used to be able to. So.
Would you say that you were kind of attesting something towards yourself as you folks get older? As was kind of mentioned at PAX.
But again, I didn't hear what you
I
said.
saying, did that mirror what you guys thought of yourselves as we all start to get older and relating it towards Guybrush?
Yeah, I mean, as Davis said, I think all these Monkey Island games are a little bit autobiographical in a way. The first game was about a new pirate starting out with a new adventure, and in some ways that was us, right? And Monkey Island 2 is trying to capture what he had done in the first one, and I think that's also true when you're doing a second game. You're always wondering whether it's going to be as good as the first game. And I think these games have always kind of been that, and I think it just made sense to us to have Guybrush be going through that as well.
Well, I have not finished playing Return to Monkey Island, and we're certainly not going to get into spoiler territory, but I have heard rumblings of another controversial ending. I don't know if that's true or not. I can't attest one way or the other, but do you have a secret fondness for kind of leaving people dangling, or pulling the rug out from under people's feet at the end? I love, particularly with MI2. I really enjoyed it, but
I think I have always enjoyed stories, whether they're movies or books, that don't wrap themselves up with a nice little bow. It's like I like to leave a movie and not completely understand what happened, so I can then think about it, or debate my friends about it, or talk about, well, what did that mean? And I enjoy watching movies like that, and I think I've always enjoyed making stories that work in the same way.
So, if you were to, let's ask some fun little questions here. Now, I guess we've kind of seen, in a way, something of Pirates of the Caribbean being a Monkey Island style movie. But if you could cast Guybrush Threepwood, Hollywood actors, who would it be?
Wow.
Yeah, that's a hard one. You
can't cheat and say Orlando Bloom either.
Like a young Jeff Daniels or something, it's like
that's
interesting. I think whoever we cast, he would have to be overdubbed by Dominic, though. I can't imagine anybody but Dominic's voice coming out of Guybrush.
I said the same thing regarding having a new LeChuck, and yet it was amazing. Nobody could beat out Dominic, so let's just leave Dominic there. New LeChuck, amazing cast, I gotta say.
That was hard.
Yeah,
hard to do. Because we all had Earl Bowen in our heads, and couldn't have Earl Bowen, and so we had, a bunch of other people to listen to, and all we could think about was, well, yeah, but it's not Earl. We gotta go in a new direction, and we don't know what that is, and it's difficult.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we didn't want to do is we didn't want to just do it sound alike. We didn't want to get an actor who can do a voice exactly like Earl. We wanted to get somebody who could still embody what we felt LeChuck was, but could put their own spin on it, that it could become their own character.
Well, I guess I'll throw another question or an observation. One thing that I appreciated, or I thought was a funny little joke, I did not realize it until several times having played it. Inside the old pirate leaders, their store now with the fish or everything. So you have a nice little section to where Guybrush is blowing up the puffer fish or whatever it is. Why am I seeing the eyes when he's blowing up the fish?
He's the only one who blows it up that way too. The other guys don't.
Yeah, didn't the animator just animate it that way, and then we all just thought it was absolutely hilarious when we saw it?
Yeah, everybody on the project gets opportunities to be funny, and the animators take advantage of these things sometimes. It's good.
Awesome.
Great. I got to duck out for a sec, guys, but I'll be back.
Okay. I guess we'll ask Willis. You kind of teased a little bit regarding Maniac Mansion. I know you said you have time. You want to have time to sit back, kick back, and make a decision later on. But say you did decide. Would your first line? You already mentioned Maniac Mansion. What's another game that comes to mind that you would love to either remake or kind of spruce up a little bit?
I would love to revisit some of the Humongous Entertainment games. I think those were those are very special games to me in my career, and in some ways, I'm like most proud of those games. And I would love to be able to go back and revisit those in some way. I think that would probably be it if I could do the dream thing. It would be to revisit those.
Are those Switch? Do you know? They seem like they would be. I'm wondering if those games are on the Switch. They seem like they would be a really good. Like you wouldn't need to do that much to them to make them appealing to children today.
Yeah, I think they are on the Switch. At least a couple of them are on the Switch already. But I mean, I don't know that I want to remake it. Like I don't think I want to remake, Puppet or Pajama Sam. I think if I was going to do something, I just want to do a new one.
Yeah,
And just
the old ones are good as is. My son played them all a couple of years ago, and he loved them.
And oh, go ahead.
No.
I was going to say I had no idea that you had built those. I mean, I played those games with my cousin when I was a younger man and played them for him. And I found out at PAX that you had made those games. Never knew that. So that's awesome.
A lot of people don't. I mean, I think nothing makes me feel old when I go to some fan meetup or something, and some fully grown adult in my mind comes up to me and says, "Oh, I loved playing Pajama Sam when I was a little kid," and that just makes me feel so old.
Oh,
it has been a while.
Well, we really appreciate the time that you guys have given us, and we appreciate all that you've done in the industry. One thing that somebody keeps saying over and over in the YouTube is, why don't you make a King's Quest? Wouldn't that be funny? Crossover. It's like Ken and Roberta make a Monkey Island later on, and you guys make a King's Quest.
That would be kind of interesting to see, what people's different takes on this stuff is. Like if I was going to do a King's Quest, I wouldn't just try to replicate King's Quest like they did it, right? I want to say, well, this is my spin on what King's Quest is, and I'd love to see what their spin on Monkey Island is.
Right.
It'd be fun.
Could we get away with doing a King's Quest where you can't die? Like, is that even possible?
But see, I think it would be fun to actually design a game where you could die.
Now, I'd like to see your guys' ideas of death. I mean, because Guybrush dies. He can die. I mean, if he holds his breath, can't hold his breath longer than 10 minutes, So I'd like to see Ken and Roberta in their next game. Since you paid homage to Colossal Cave, they pay homage to, like, a character that dies because he can't hold his breath for longer than 10 minutes. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. You folks are a treasure to the adventure game community. We appreciate you taking of your time. I know you answered some hard questions. You gave us some incredible answers, and we look forward to seeing what you guys have in store for us in the future, and we know it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. This was a lot of fun, and good luck on the new venture and everything.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you
Enjoyed
kindly.